What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. And today we need to have an honest and a frank conversation about something that's been rattling around in my brain recently, and that is the subject of review content online. This comes up every now and again, and people get skeptical of reviews, and you are well within your rights to do so. I'm never going to tell you that you should trust everything you see online. That way madness lies. But what I do want to talk about are some key things that you should be considering when you're watching a review video, and B, how you can actually use reviews even if you may be slightly skeptical of them.
Man, this is such an important subject, but it's also tough to talk about because there's been a long history of deceitful review practice on the internet, both within and without of the motorcycle industry. There's definitely a bunch of stuff out there that the audience may look at and be like, that's some shady shit right there. I do not appreciate that, and I do not trust any of these reviews. And I'm never going to sit here and say, if you don't trust a review online, you're wrong. I'm never, including mine. If you don't trust one of my reviews for whatever reason, that's fine. You may post about it in the comments, and I may say, well, okay, that's cool, but this is the situation. I may try to explain a counter argument, and I've done that in the past, where I've tried to be like, where somebody's like, I don't trust this review because they flew me out there and they paid you for a dinner, and I'm like, again, okay, that's fine. If you don't trust me because of that, totally understand it, and you're well within your rights. But I may say, yeah, okay, they flew me out, but if my opinion can be bought for the price of an airplane ticket and a steak dinner, I'm not much of a reviewer. And I would say that for just about anybody who's doing review content online. If you're willing to sell out the credentials or the credibility of your outlet for something, you're not in a good place, because I promise you, in the long term, your outlet, your pulpit is more valuable than whatever product you are being given. And there's a reason why I'm riding this motorcycle, because Aprilia we're going to say the word give, but they didn't give it to me. I still had to buy it. They gave me a steep discount. But I was given this price because I'm participating in a big series with Chase on Two Wheels and 650 Eve, and we're doing all of this stuff with Aprilia, where we're going to end up racing these motorcycles in New Jersey. But this isn't Aprilia. This is mine, and I did not have to throw down the full purchase price of this bike. Being completely open and honest. And as a result of that, if you take everything I say with the biggest grain of salt about this bike, I cannot fault you for it. I absolutely can't. In fact, I encourage you to. And that's one of the biggest things that we need to talk about, is reviewer bias. Reviewer bias is often misunderstood because the word bias itself is misunderstood. Bias is not inherently a bad thing. I have bias. You have bias. You've come into something with your own thoughts and opinions about the bike, colored by, or product, we'll just say the bike, the Aprilia 660, Tuono 660 here. You have your own preconceived understanding of it, and I had my own preconceived understanding of it, and you're viewing the bike through that lens. And it's so important for a reviewer to be clear about their biases in a video. And this is something that has caused a lot of problems for reviews. And in fact, it is a law in the United States. I'd reckon probably also in Europe, because in the US we only have like 3 laws left, and one of them is that you have to be clear about, disclosing reviews. But basically, in the US, if I have any bias, if I've been given money, if I've been given product, I have to tell you that so that you understand my perspective, right? In fact, there's a little button behind the scenes on YouTube that you have to tick that says this is paid promotion, and when you tick it, you'll see a little paid promotion thing show up on the screen somewhere. But it's not just something I can do, it's something I have to do.
This is something that we see with sponsorships all the time. Specifically here, I'm talking about the integrated ads that you see in the middle of a video. When you see something like that, the whole point is the brand is trying to cash in essentially on the relationship that the creator has with the audience and the trust that y'all share with me and I share with you and vice versa. That's why I have very specific rules about what will and won't end up on the channel in terms of an ad placement. But my goal is always to work with a brand long term, because when I stand by a product, I'm not just gonna switch over to something else because they offered me some cash. And specifically, one of the longest term brands that I've worked with on the channel here has been Quad Lock. And yes, we are transitioning into an ad, but bear with me. I'm gonna tell you the genuine reasons why they're my choice over every other phone mount that I've tried. I have done some terrible things to my phone while it's been in my Quad Lock case. I've dropped it on the concrete, I've dropped it off my bike, I've dropped it off my van, and it is still kicking without one of those bulky cases that some of the other brands have. I also like how easy it is to clip the phone in place and how well it holds on. And I have been off-road with this thing and never had an issue with the phone hopping off the bars. They also have a ton of accessories that I use not just on the bike, but at my desk and while I'm driving. If you want to check out everything that Quad Lock has to offer, there is a link down below, and a huge shout out to Quad Lock for being such a long-term channel partner. And with all that said, let's get back out on the road and keep talking about some of this stuff.
If you look at a review and say that it's been paid for, when it hasn't been, this is me just, venting a little bit about some of the comments about, positive reviews I have done on a product people don't like. Perfect example. I do not like the X5. I fucking hate that camera. I don't like it. I don't like it at all, not one bit. I use it because I have to. Because it gives me that cool side-on angle that a lot of people dislike. But I use it because I just don't want forward and rearward facing views. I want you to be able to see the bike. I hate that fucking camera. I made a video saying that if you're already, if you're an X3 owner or an X4 owner, don't bother upgrading. That camera is not worth it. So many people said that because I'm sponsored by DJI, and I was clear about that in the beginning, that DJI paid me to do a hit piece on the X5 because it was contrary to all of the reviews that had come out at the embargo, which, talking about embargo is a whole other subject. It's not nefarious. It's just a company allowing everybody who's got product to make a review and causing all the reviews to go live so they get one big marketing push. Not nefarious, just a marketing thing. But because all of the embargoed reviews were positive and mine was just it's okay. It's better. It's fine. It's fine, but it ain't worth the price. Everybody said that my review was paid for by DJI. That is so illegal. That's so illegal. You're literally accusing me of breaking the law, and you could go file a report about that. So yeah, financial bias out of the way. The other thing you gotta do is you gotta consider, like I said, the reviewer's bias that they're bringing into a review. Super, super, super important. When I make a review, it's worth understanding that I am primarily a street rider who favors naked bikes, who likes high horsepower, who owns 8 bikes plus 1 electric bike. This is all super important information because it colors how I may look at a motorcycle. So, for example, if I were to say about the 210 660, you know, it really doesn't have enough power for me. I really like a little bit more mid-range grunt than this thing has, because there's a little bit of a flat spot, maybe to me it feels like. It's worth understanding that I am a V-twin naked bike purist. And I ride a Super Duke and a Tuono V990, or RSVR 1000. And when I say that a street bike, a sport bike, like one that's got clip-ons and full fairings and stuff, when I say one of those is uncomfortable, that's because I'm a big dude who prefers to ride naked bikes. Or when I say that a cruiser handles a little bit slow, again, that's because I'm comparing it in my head to the bikes that I have the most experience with. Because all of that will color a review. When a motorcycle is like designed for me, something like the Super Duke basically, of course you're gonna get a glowing review out of me. Of course, because it's like it ticks all my boxes. I'm still going to point out the stuff that I don't like about it. You know, like for example, on my Super Duke, I'm getting the front brake switch light error. Super common, super common on Super Dukes. And there's a couple of potential faults in the line, but I had to buy a new brake switch. That's annoying. It was like $70. It is like a little plastic nubbin though, so it can wear out, and I don't want to get into it. Just kind of feels like a part that reached the end of its service life. I just think the service life was too short. So we get to the question of, do reviews even matter? And what's the point? And so I don't put myself out of a job. The answer is yes, reviews do matter. But not because you watched one Spites Corner video and Jake said that the 210 660 factory was a great motorcycle and you should go buy it. It mattered because I'm one data point in a whole pile of reviews that are generally saying that the 210 660 factory is a great motorcycle and you should probably consider buying it. Or the Action 5 Pro, or not that camera, because I don't like that camera. But if you want to buy it, go for it. Plenty of people said it's good. And it's fine. It's a fine camera. I just don't like it. All reviews are is just it's a single data point. You can't just look at one review and think that that's the final word on it. You really need to look at all reviews, and you need to understand the biases of some of the viewpoints expressed. Magazines, which are now all online, as impartial as they want to seem like they are in their writings, they're not. They have the same biases that I do. Well, they bring in the same perspectives that I do, which informs bias. Putting a sport bike guy on a cruiser, he's going to give you his best assessment, but it's not the same as a cruiser guy, right? But by that same token, if you're out there and you're a sport bike guy and you're thinking, oh, maybe a cruiser's fun, and you see a sport bike guy typically get on a cruiser and have a lot of fun, that should probably be like, oh, that review carries a little extra weight. It's fine to discount the value of certain reviews because of bias. That's fine. But again, you want to bring in some opposing viewpoints. If all you've seen, don't you fucking dare, if all you've seen is positive reviews, try to find a negative one. Reviews are a tool, nothing more. And I'm always trying to give you the best information I can. That's why when, in a review, if I'm looking at a bike that I'm not in love with when I'm riding it around, I'll try to say, hey, you know what? This bike isn't for me, but it is for these people. And if you're watching one of my reviews and you're like, you know what? He's saying a lot of stuff that he doesn't like, but I like the way all that sounds, then maybe I'm describing the bike for you. I promise you guys, I promise to always be as open and honest and transparent about my reviews as possible. And I promise I will not put a piece of content on the channel that I would not be willing to stake my reputation and my livelihood on. I'm not just going to sell out for stuff, because that's so pointless. I'd be screwing my own business, and I'd be run out of town. I don't know. Long kind of thought that sort of has been percolating since I did that reliability video, because a lot of people actually, as much as I was expecting it to be ratioed, it wasn't ratioed as hard as it was, and you'd be surprised how generally positive some of the comments were. Some people really smelled what I was stepping in with that one. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it to you guys here. What do you think about all of this? Kind of a long ramble at this point, but let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.